Guys, welcome back to another episode of Critical Hits. We are very happy because for the first time in the show, we have a fellow Syracuse student joining us. We're very excited. We have a great esports program here in Syracuse with its own huge dedicated room, big dollar investment from Syracuse into esports. We're so happy about it, and we're so grateful to finally be able to showcase that on this show. Frank, I know you're extremely excited. Yeah. Who do we have joining us today?
We got Scott Hushaw from Syracuse University, like you mentioned, the team captain of the Rocket League team here at Syracuse University. You guys were third place at the Utica Battle of the Colleges in February. You were undefeated in the spring ECAC Rocket League ladder until the stoppage due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So Scott, thank you for joining us here on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Really excited.
All right, so first we're going to ask you, just in general, obviously your team had pretty good success. You got third in the land in February, and you guys were undefeated in the ladder play in ECAC until the stoppage. So just kind of tell us about how your team had so much success, like what your team dynamic was like last year for Rocket League at Syracuse University Esports.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a lot of talented players. Really just fortunate to have that. One thing that Rocket League has that a lot of esports don't end up having is that the starting roster is 3 players. A lot of these other esports, you have to have 5, 6 people in order to actually play. So we actually end up being pretty lucky finding 3 relatively high level players to play with. The esports room, 2 of us last year were using the esports room all the time. My computer is not very good, and he didn't have a computer here, so that was a huge help. Also having the backing of being a club sport now, doing all that, all that support really helps.
So tell us also a little bit about kind of like how you guys go about, practicing. And Rocket League is obviously a game that maybe doesn't change as much over time as some of the other esports that we see in the community, but still obviously you have to stay on top of your game. What's the strategy like in going over film and practice and all of that for your team?
Yeah. Meta shifts aren't really a thing in Rocket League that they are in other esports with patch notes and stuff. But we scrim other schools relatively often. Playing 7-8 games. And then doing VOD reviews later, trying to be as impartial as possible, see, what could have went wrong here, you should have passed this way better. That type of stuff, it's really helpful in my mind. Looking back at your gameplay helps you to learn a lot. And then, it's just really playing ranked as well. Rocket League is a game where you really can, jump in with new people and do relatively well as having all these team-based stuff. But yeah, just grinding ranked and as well as scrims and VOD reviews.
Right, so you mentioned how you want to have that VOD review and just that rank review because you get to that higher level. So someone who's maybe not super familiar with Rocket League, I feel like when a lot of people play, there's just one person on the team who's doing ridiculous and 2 people who are just asleep at the wheel, quite literally, and just getting carried. So what makes the difference when you look at a VOD? What are you looking for to see what went well and what didn't go well? Like, what's your criteria for having a good game, basically?
Yeah, well, for me at least, because everyone has their own, with every esport, everyone has their own views on how the game should be played and the way things should work. I look for, are you looking for infield passing plays? Because that can be really, really tough, challenging to stop. High level Rocket League solo plays really don't work too well, at least in my opinion. They get snuffed out pretty easily, as well as, rotations, being smooth, going over the boost pads, which are these little things that give you boost. Just being smooth with that and not double committing, not having 2 people commit to the same thing at the same time. It really throws the whole team out of whack and gives up a lot of pressure.
Right, and so when you're trying to get that talent that you mentioned that you guys are pretty lucky to get, is that something that you communicate in the beginning? We need good communications. We need to be doing our own thing that leads to a win and not necessarily try and chase the ball down at the same time and taking time away from actually advancing it up the field. How do you communicate that expectation with somebody, or in a ranked game, let's say, what separates maybe the mid-tier from the upper echelons? Is it just how smooth the turnover is? Is it how quickly they recover? Like in a competitive esports environment, what would be a bottom tier team and what would be a top tier team in terms of their ability to use all those mechanics that you mentioned?
Yeah, like similar to what you were saying, it's everything. It's all the stuff you were saying. There's in Rocket League, it's a game where it's almost never possible to be completely optimal. Like there's always things you can improve at. Like mid-level to bottom tier teams are going to be, not rotating to where they should. There's paths throughout the field that give you boost, and it's really important to stay on that path while you're rotating, so you don't have no boost and can't get to a ball that you should be able to get to. Double committing, not having that proper communication, that team chemistry, not be on the same page and thinking that someone's going to do something and they don't end up doing that at all. thinking your teammate's going to be able to get the save and not going for the ball, and then the ball just goes right to your net. All types of stuff like that. But it's really all around. There's not just one thing that separates like a lower to mid-level team from a high-level team.
So,
sure. I just wanted to talk about the meta. I'm sorry to cut you
no,
off.
No, you're good. Go for it.
Interested
yeah. Talk.
I really want to see, because there are games like League of Legends, like Valorant, that have frequent updates, and so the meta is kind of dictated by the developers. But in games with more static compositions, like the Smash Brothers community and now Rocket League, the base mechanics don't really change, and the innovations in the meta game, at least in my experience, seem to be developed by individual players innovating, finding new techniques, and bringing them, just running it over, and then people either have to adapt or come up with their own. In your experience in competitive Rocket League, what's something along those lines that either you've experienced or you've come up with, or what's some of that tech and what's really driving the meta in Rocket League?
Yeah, right now, one of the big meta-changing things that's been popularized over the last year to 6 months is the concept of a flip reset. In Rocket League, you get 2 jumps, but after you use your first jump, you typically have to, I think it's 1.5 seconds to use your second jump, but you could flip into the ball to generate power and stuff like that. So if you land on the ball and have all 4 of your wheels touching the ball at the same time, it resets your jump and gives you another jump. So you can use that to really surprise your opponent and have a ton of options in the air that it wasn't around when Rocket League was starting, and it was recently, almost perfected by professional players to where they can get this every time.
So let me ask you now just a little bit about yourself. When did you kind of get your start with esports? Like, when did you kind of first, realize that competitive gaming outside of just the casual side was a thing? And like, kind of what grabbed your attention? Where'd you get your start?
Yeah, so in esports, not really, but I grinded CSGO for a while. Didn't get too well. I think I was MGE, LE, somewhere around there. And then I transitioned to Fortnite for a while, which I played in like some tournaments, not with a team or anything, but won a little bit of money playing random tournaments in Fortnite. And then I really started grinding Rocket League, and I saw the potential. I really love the game. I love sports personally. I played a lot of sports in high school, and Rocket League being a sports-based game, I really enjoyed it. And like with the collegiate scene, my freshman year, I started grinding it because I really wanted to try. And then my sophomore year, I ended up being lucky. I found the Esports Club at SU and found other people, and ended up being able to build a team.
And let me also go, now you're team captain. Obviously, you mentioned, we mentioned earlier as well, with the Rocket League team at Syracuse. So what's the role as team captain, and kind of like we'll take you through like the day by day if you guys are competing and practicing. How does your role differentiate, and like what are the responsibilities you have to take on?
Yeah, so I think I've been, with team captain in esports, at least in my experience, it's really similar to being a team captain in a traditional sport. There's people who have personality differences. There's people who have different perspectives on the way the game should be played. There's conflict. There's you have to deal with conflict resolution. All these types of things. Team captains, you have to set up scrims. You have to find events. You have to do all these stuff. You have to deal with being a club sport and some of the stuff that you have to deal with being a club sport. People's busy schedules. You have to find, okay, we can't play this. Then they have this. This person has this, and it's really. It is a lot to be a team captain. Currently, we're transitioning. I'm a senior. This is my legacy. I'm going to be leaving at Syracuse as the Rocket League team, something I started. So we're currently transitioning into someone else as a team captain, so that they can be prepared and whatnot. So I'm away from a lot of the responsibility right now.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the competition. Obviously, you guys compete in the ECAC. Tell us a little bit about the competition within the ECAC. What's it like working alongside and also competing, obviously, against other schools? Is there like a cool little community inside? You guys have rivals that you sometimes go up against, and you're like, oh no, here we go again with these people. Tell us a little bit about the community in that sense.
So the ECAC it's a great league. It's great having like an official sports league, pursuing esports. It's really great to see. I can't think of any of the other like official sports leagues that are doing that. Although the other ones are like more just esports. So we love that. There was a team that was our rival. They kind of fell off the face of the earth. I don't know really what happened to them. LIU
okay,
was our team. We in the fall ECAC we lost to them in the finals. We lost. We got second in the ECAC. And then at that Battle of the Colleges land that we mentioned before, so only the top 3 teams made money. And in that match to get 3rd place and not get 4th, we played against LIU and we won in a game 5 of best of 5, right at 0 seconds. It was a great moment. And so that felt really nice. But the ECAC was great.
Gotcha. I was just wondering, you mentioned your role in team captain. What was it like transitioning from a club to a club sport? Because I realize there's a lot of differences, and for people who aren't super familiar with collegiate athletics, there is a world of difference between
Yeah.
those two, just in terms of how you market, in terms of how play works. But specifically for your team, and specifically for the esports here at Syracuse University, what did that transition look like? Was there support from Syracuse? Obviously, you guys used the room in some capacity. How did that whole process take place?
Yeah, so we officially became a club sport last spring. We were still just a club in the fall. So, we had to go through all the training and type stuff that club sport athletes have to do. But some of the great things is we competed in a event through April and May. It was, I believe it's the EGFC. I might be getting that wrong, but it was backed by Microsoft and Syracuse University. And so I ended up, being able to sit on a panel with Microsoft and so for the iSchool and a bunch of people from Syracuse University. Newhouse, I believe, was also doing a bunch of esports stuff alongside the tournament that we were competing in. So that stuff was really great from Syracuse. But there's more stuff, like we recently have been able to use the Syracuse logo. We before weren't able to use that Syracuse S. So if you see some of our games that were streamed, we don't have the S. We have a different logo that one of our members made. But yeah, so it's great to seeing how things have transitioned and how we are getting more support, and we hope that it just keeps on rolling.
Absolutely. So in terms of being able to keep on rolling, being able to manage all these responsibilities, we realize that you are not just a Rocket League god. You do have some other things going on in your life. And I know that it's really difficult to balance having that professional ambition while also competing at the highest level. Talk us through what it means to you you mentioned leaving a legacy, but you also obviously have to focus on time. What does it mean to be able to walk out of Syracuse University, not only with a biochem major, but also being able to say that this was something that didn't exist either as a sport, as a club sport, or as a pastime that people come to enjoy and come to watch and come to compete? What does that type of legacy mean for you?
Yeah, that means a lot to me. That's what I say all the time when I do things like this. I love the fact that I'm going to be able to leave something at Syracuse. A lot of people, they can join organizations, they can, they can do their part, they get their degree, but very few people actually end up being able to start something and leave something behind and like really make a difference in like the structure of what Syracuse is. And so that's what I'm really happy to, have been able to do. And yeah, like balancing so many things all the time on my plate as I am, like I've mentioned, I recently applied to med school. So I am, focusing on professional stuff as well. But yeah, the leaving the legacy thing is something that is crazy to me. And it's crazy that this is going to exist after I leave.
So obviously you just mentioned, congratulations, by the way, applying to medical school. It's a great feat to go into that profession as it is. So do you have any interest in, continuing your esports career outside of college? Or are you satisfied with what you've been able to accomplish here at Syracuse?
Esports careers have definitely enticed me, and I thought, maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I should have been pursuing esports. But for me personally, I really like structure. I really like security. And currently with the esports scene, even though it is growing exponentially and is continuing to rise, I'm not that big of a risk taker. I'm not willing to commit that far. But I feel like a career in esports would sound like such a fun thing, either as an analyst, as a broadcaster, behind the scenes guy. I feel like that could be a lot of fun, but it's just not for me with the current uncertainty within esports.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think that somebody, sorry, Rob, but what do you think that somebody needs to do in order to, transition from being a member of a collegiate esports club or club sport in college and then transitioning to the professional world? What do you think someone needs to do to take those next steps to really stand out?
Yeah, I think that, at that point, if you are a high enough level to where you think that you have a chance to, eventually go pro or something like that, really doing the same thing everyone else is doing, grinding, either 6-mans or 10-mans as they're considered in other games, types of lobbies where you're just playing over and over again against really high level people. And I think the one thing that collegiate esports really offers these players who, aren't quite the pro level is really to compete on like a main stage. There is a lot of money that's like the developers of Rocket League, for instance, put into collegiate Rocket League, and, being able to play on a stage, we, for instance, played on that $5,000 stage. That's something that you really can't get unless you are like at that pro level typically. So the fact that collegiate esports, in 2019, 2020, is able to, put money into it and have players compete with that pressure that you really can't get anywhere else besides the collegiate scene now is really great, I think, for professional development and for that transition if you are trying for that.
Absolutely. So you mentioned how esports is uncertainty, and obviously it's a rocky career path at the best of times, and we are certainly not in those at the moment. So I was wondering if there's anything that you could walk us through in terms of how esports at Syracuse specifically, with how the room is working, with how club sports is working in the age of COVID? What's the guidance that you guys have been given? What are those rules that your players have to play by? Just walk us through what it means to be a competitive athlete during COVID.
Yeah, so I think for most club sports, I believe they're all almost all shut down except for us. I think we're one of the only club sports that's being allowed to compete because we can do it virtually. The esports room's only letting a few people in right now, but most of the players, have PCs and aren't really worried about that. But for COVID, I mean, I personally think that's important for a team, even an esports team, to have some sort of team bonding outside of it. We like to play Fall Guys as a thing to do. But like do something in order to build a little bit of chemistry. I feel like having that fully professional thing isn't the greatest. I feel like you need that chemistry. So, it's COVID, not really being able to go see each other, like get food. We have 2 freshmen who are extremely talented who have joined the team and are really, really great. And they're going to do great things for their college careers. Not really being able to interact with them as much as we probably should and get them involved and like feel like they're part of a family even. So that kind of sucks. But, with esports, with COVID, that's the one thing about esports that is good, is that we are able to compete with social distancing guidelines and stuff like that, whereas other sports might not be able to.
Sure. Normally, do you guys practice in one area? Like if you guys are playing a competitive ranked game, are you all in the same room and there's some sort of LAN setup and you guys are at the LAN, or is it you guys are in one house competing against other people in separate locations, but all 3 people are in the same place? How does that work logistically in terms of what Rocket League tournaments is going to look like and what they could look like moving forward?
Yeah, so unfortunately, with the amount of people that were typically in the esports room last year, I didn't really try and mandate that for people to be in the esports room in person. Because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of stuff going on. It can be distracting. But like I said earlier, 2 of us were in the esports room all the time just because, PCs and internet issues, living off campus and stuff, not the best usually. Yeah, I personally really do prefer being next to each other. I feel like it really does build that team camaraderie and stuff like that. But mandating it at this point doesn't really seem to be like really worth it.
Gotcha. And more on the lighter side, after a successful game, after a victory, which Syracuse food spot are you hitting up for dinner after the game? Hard-hitting questions here on the show.
Definitely not biased by us at all, Rob. No.
Syracuse food spot. Oh man. Oh, you're killing me. No, I'm gonna go with Chipotle. I'm gonna swing by Chipotle on Marshall Street. If anywhere, that's where I'm gonna go.
I was honestly thinking the same exact thing, because when you asked that, I was like, what would I say? And it's not even a Syracuse spot. It's just we gotta love Chipotle.
I feel bad not saying varsity, but
yeah, I mean varsity's pretty good. I do enjoy myself some varsity.
Let me ask you one more question. So, as we wrap up here, what's an esport that you think would be awesome in the collegiate community, maybe in Syracuse itself? What's an esport that maybe it's not featured right now at the higher levels of collegiate esports that you would love to see take place?
Yeah, so a lot of the main esports, stuff like League of Legends and Overwatch are really are like in the collegiate scene. One thing that we personally at Esports at SU have a really big community on, but the esports scene really isn't very developed. It's kind of hard, the style. I would love to see more Smash Bros. At collegiate level. I feel like it's a really great game. It's similar to Rocket League, and where like the average person can watch it and like understand and follow what's going on. Whereas some of these other games like League of Legends or Overwatch, it's really hard to follow if you don't know what's going on. So I feel like Smash Bros. Has a lot of potential. Like it's hard for it to be a team game. There is doubles in Smash, but I feel like that could be a great thing that needs to be built a little bit higher in the collegiate scene.
All right, and as we wrap up here, I want to say thank you, obviously, for joining us. It was a lot of fun. Great to talk to someone from Syracuse about the esports program there. Is there anything you want to pitch, anything you want to say to anybody who's interested in joining esports, maybe an incoming freshman or even a sophomore who has an interest in joining esports teams and they want to get their foot in the door?
Yeah, if anyone's interested in joining any of the esports teams or just wants to be a part of the esports community, there's also casual game community. Join our Discord, Esports at SU. Follow us on Twitter, Esports at SU. There's a great community. It's not all competitive. I think there's a few hundred. I think it's around 400 or 500 people in that Discord, and there's only maybe 50 players who are on competitive teams across all the teams. And so there's a huge community outside of that. So if you're interested, just join, message a captain, message someone, a manager, an e-board member, and they'll get you in the door and see what's going on.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are so happy to have finally gotten a Syracuse person on this stream. We love it to be able to promote the great esports program we have here, the lot of investment that it took to get it running, and now the great results that we have as a result of that. And guys, for great content like this and other stuff under the Critical Hits banner, Collegiate Community is not the only show we got going on, guys. We have so much in the works. We literally are so excited we can't even get it out fast enough to you guys. But when we do, check it out on EsportsU Network. That's on Twitch, their brand new 24/7 esports network for collegiate games. But thank you so much for joining us, Frank. You got the sign off. It's all you.
Make sure to follow Rob at Rob_Flax on Twitter, and I'm at Frank Salerno _. Scott, do you have a Twitter for you, the team that you want to plug?
No, just at Esports@SU. Join the whole club, Twitter.
All right. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll catch you next time. Have a great day.